Apparently there's just always Pokemon news right now, and this is official news. This isn't like Datamine or any kind of crazy leak spoiler kind of thing. This is from Game Informer, because they did an interview with Junichi Masuda about the burning questions for Pokemon Sun and Moon. So I'm very excited to see if we get any new information and stuff like that. So first question, is Yungoos/Gumshoes modeled after Donald Trump? I'm going to give you guys a short answer, and it's no. Have any Pokemon designs ever been inspired by current events? So we have the follow-up question to that, and also it's Masuda and Omori that are a part of this interview. We don't really look at current events that are going on, but one thing we do sometimes when designing Pokemon is kind of see what kids in that era might like. Like, for example, maybe if there's a popular animal as a pet in a certain era, we might try to come up with a Pokemon based off of that and kind of focus on what kids in the era might like. I would actually have liked an example, because I can't think of like any popular pets or something like that. I think it's more like, oh, we haven't seen this Pokemon yet. I could see Kamala maybe just trying to fill in the gaps at this point for inspiration, anything else. You can at least admit that the resemblance is pretty uncanny, right? Yeah, we were really surprised when I saw the photos. I can see why people thought they looked similar, especially the hairstyle. So, not modeled after Donald Trump, but we're not too far off for making the assumption. Why is Hawaii for Sun and Moon? Kind of goes back to we knew this was going to be the 20th anniversary game. That's actually really cool, because I have some other interviews, Game Informer, they've had like a lot of interviews with Junichi Masuda and all kinds of like game development on Pokemon, and they said that it took 3 years to develop Pokemon X and Y, so I guess that when they were going back and like, hey, what's our next Pokemon going to be? They knew it was going to be released on the 20th anniversary, so they were going on that hard deadline, which is pretty cool. I really went back to kind of just the basics to really re-examine at this time 20 years of Pokemon. What are Pokemon? What kind of creatures are they as living beings? For example, when thinking about how to really express the concept, I knew I wanted to focus on the idea of life and how Sun and Moon are involved with creating life on this planet in terms of a region that would be representative of that. I've been to Hawaii on a lot of vacations, and I know how good Hawaii is. It captures it all. You gotta go to the warm sun full of life, so pretty much it actually makes a lot of sense. Like, you look at the Alola region, you look at Hawaii, you think about vacations and stuff like that whole tropical paradise, that is the life. Living the life right there, and then making life the theme of Pokemon Sun and Moon, which is pretty cool. I'm actually interested if there's going to be talk of, like, Ultra Beasts later on in this, but I'm wondering if Ultra Beasts are to kind of show what isn't a Pokemon, if one of the ideas is what is a Pokemon. Even though Ultra Beasts have been confirmed to be capturable, that doesn't automatically make them Pokemon. So maybe it's kind of like the establishment right there, because you can see Ultra Beasts are different from Pokemon. Their designs, their intentions, everything about them just seems wrong. And the fact that, like, in the trailer, Tapu Koko is immediately combative of an Ultra Beast as it comes into the world. I think that actually might have been a little shown by Omori right there, which is really interesting. So some of the first trailers for the game show concept art for vehicles. Are vehicles going to be an important part of the game, or are we going to see more vehicles in Sun and Moon? Actually, I forgot about that, but I like it. This goes back to conceptual stages. We really wanted to kind of re-examine and put focus again on the relationship between humans and Pokemon, come up with a lot of different ideas about how they might interact with each other and the world, how they might, for example, work together and live together. So a lot of conceptual art pieces at the beginning stage shows how humans would be using vehicles and Pokemon be riding in them. As development went on, we kind of settled in terms of getting around the game for the Pokeride feature. Ooh, there are some vehicles that do appear in the game. So that we don't see there's not going to be a Blastoise riding around the truck, unless it's just kind of like a conceptual thing, or maybe that is how it works, but apparently it just came into Pokeride. And here's the big question. We've only seen original Kanto Pokemon in Alola forms. What is the reason for that? This is really my first time working as a director in a completely all-new title. Last time Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was kind of the remake for an older title. Also, with this being the 20th anniversary, I was thinking that we have so many fans, longtime fans of the game that have played since the beginning. I really want to have a special surprise for those players. Also, the fact that Pokemon from Kanto region of the original game are probably more recognizable amongst longtime fans, so I really wanted to kind of focus on them and give them a new take on their appearance and really surprise them. But at the same time, by having a new appearance, they kind of look like new Pokemon, so they work for new players. Does that mean that it's Kanto only? Oh, wait, so that was the reason we decided to focus on Kanto Pokemon. Wow. Okay, then. So we have okay, I don't know what to say, because it's just going to be, wow, that's, even though we already know. So from the Pokemon Sun and Moon Datamine, I'm not going to spoil too much on that. Like, we do see the Alolan forms. We see all of the Alolan Pokemon, and I guess that, like, confirms it, that the Datamine found everything, that people were wondering, like, hey, there's only this many Alolan forms? No, there has to be more. Game Freak has to be holding out on it. So at the same time, this like, confirms the Datamine is most likely everything, and that's also just Kanto Pokemon on the Alolan forms, which is kind of weird, given, like, what he's saying, because I don't think that Pokemon goes back to just being only first generation as a longtime fan, that it could be second generation, that, you know, you go Gold, Silver, those games are amazing, and you go back to the Kanto region, so I kind of, like, lump that entire experience as one, that Kanto and Johto are kind of the same for, like, early Pokemon nostalgia, and Johto is my favorite region, so I was thinking, you could have probably gotten away with Johto Alolan forms at the same time, but now, I wonder what that does, because if there is a remake, or, like, a sequel version, yeah, I don't mean remake, I mean, like, a sequel version, are they going to introduce more Alolan Pokemon? Because, like, now the theme has been set. Now we get our first generation fan service nostalgia out of the way, and then we can kind of carry it into further generations for Alolan forms. That would be pretty cool. I still also want to see, like, new Megas at the same time, so I wonder if that's going to be in this, like, no more new Megas. Huh. So, dang, I was hoping for some other Alolans, so that's it. It's really interesting that the concept of Alolan Pokemon went so far, but that there's actually so few. So we saw Professor Oak's cousin in a recent trailer. Are we going to see more of Professor Oak's extended family in the game? Ha, that's a funny question, because it's like, okay, how many relatives does he have? We actually put that guy in to represent Alola variants. Oh my goodness! Masuda just confirmed that Professor Oak's cousin is actually Alolan Oak, but to show that he's still a different thing while being the Alolan form. He's kind of an Alolan variant himself. Oh, that's great! To research these Pokemon that have adapted to the Alolan environment and change how they appear, there are also some other characters that show up that may be recognized by fans of previous games. Oh, that's hype! So there are some characters reoccurring, and maybe they show up with a different look than they had before in terms of Oak's extended family. I think this is the only guy in Pokemon Sun and Moon. What about future games? I think that's what the question was. Ooh, I'm wondering who. Because we already know about Dexio and Cena, and they have, you know, they're on vacation. They got the vacation clothes, so I'm wondering who else. Like, what if there's, like, trainers from the previous games? That'd be pretty cool, or something like that. Yeah, I like the surprises. Like, even with the Datamine, there's so many surprises. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, you could soar over the top of the map. Are you going to be able to do that in Pokemon Sun and Moon? The Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, it's kind of a remake game from over a decade ago. We really want to show it from a different perspective, which is why we had the soar feature. But in Pokemon Sun and Moon, we really put the focus on doing this rite of passage travel. So we're going to walk with the islands on your own 2 feet. Oh man, there's no soaring in Pokemon Sun and Moon. I guess it makes sense. Like, actually, I can just scroll up. Hey, we have the picture. So I saw this. That looks like the soaring feature. But nah, you're just going to be able to fly with Charizard. So, yeah, that's actually... I really like the Pokeride feature. That instead of, like, shoving HMs in your face and making you have to go find the person that gives you the HM and then get a Pokemon on that team, the Pokeride Pokemon are just going to be given to you. So it's like, hey, you now have the ability to surf. Here's a Lapras. You now need a Sharpedo. That way you can surf and Rock Smash at the same time. So actually what I really like is that it gives you a lot more alternatives to your travel, so you're not allowed to fly until you get the Charizard, instead of being completely gated by the second HM, and then it gives you some more interesting things, like a waterfall exclusive Pokeride Pokemon, or something as ferocious as Sharpedo, going over terrain like on Mudsdale, which I guess Tauros isn't going to be able to do. So I really like that, it is pretty cool like that, but no soaring. I would have loved to soar over the freaking Alola region, but I guess it's an on-foot experience, which kind of shows from the graphics and what we've seen from the gameplay. Have you been surprised by the success of Pokemon Go, and has any of that game's success factored into the development of Pokemon Sun and Moon? I feel like the success was too late in the development cycle. I personally didn't expect it to be much of a big phenomenon that it had become. First beginning of development of a game, and kind of just expected it a lot. I mean, I guess a lot of people would play it, but a smaller thing. No, it would just be more about fans. I'm not really too interested in answering and seeing where this question goes. And because of that, we took Pokemon Go. We knew from the beginning that it was the direction of the game with Pokemon Sun and Moon. Want to make it a deep experience that would spend a lot more time enjoying the game, not just catching Pokemon, but also raising them and getting them into battling. Really just being immersed and enjoying the Pokemon universe. In terms of Go, whether success affected Pokemon Sun and Moon, it didn't affect the development of the game, any of the features, but I think it's going to affect the way most people maybe learn about Pokemon or come back to Pokemon through Pokemon Go. That makes sense, that's about right. But here's the thing. Here's what gets me, and here's why I can't escape it, guys. Salty hack talk incoming, salty cheaters, you know. If it's about, there's so many things that I don't understand. It seems like Pokemon isn't about cheating. Of course, you're a Pokemon trainer. You're not a Pokemon battler, which is why the VGC people are wrong. That all aspects of Pokemon are Pokemon. It's not just battling, even into the competitive scene, because that's how the Pokemon universe works. You have to raise these Pokemon, you have to get them into battling. That whole raising and getting them into battling, that kind of feels like hyper training takes away from that, because you're not training with your Pokemon, you're not raising with those Pokemon, you just slap something into them and then they get maxed out and they're competitive ready. And I feel like that's honestly, hyper training takes away from a lot of what Pokemon has become, like a lot of that like the training and just the engagement behind it. And then also just with how easy the demo was broken open and how the game's already pretty much ready for PK Hex. So hacking is going to be more prevalent than ever in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and all the work to actually build a team is being removed, but the game is apparently still supposed to be focused. I don't know. I think there's too much caving on the community right here. Well, they're bringing cross-promotion between the two games. That's interesting. Pokemon locking because you played the other. Pokemon Go, yeah, we definitely want to have some kind of connectivity. Oh, really? Really? I heard people talking about no, like, Johto, Alolan Pokemon, but this? Why isn't anyone talking about this? Pokemon Go connectivity. Now, I don't have a smartphone, which is unfortunate, but I like that idea because if someone plays Pokemon Go, then it's enticing them. It's getting them to actually play a real Pokemon game. A lot of people, of course, knew Pokemon from the animated series, but Pokemon Go reached even more people than the anime. I mean, yeah, there was people I was talking with, they were just like businessmen. They were playing it like Candy Crush. They were playing it like Flappy Birds. They don't care about Pokemon as a brand. They just care about it because it's a fun, entertaining game. So people didn't even know what Pokemon were, and they love Pokemon Go, which is how amazing it is. It released in more countries and has reached a much wider audience, so I think a lot of people may have learned about Pokemon for the first time from Pokemon Go. The core concept of throwing out Pokeball, catching a Pokemon, we don't want to waste that. We want people who picked up Pokemon, learned about through Go to play Sun and Moon and the main series games. We might find a way to connect the two, or find people that enjoy the game to progress in the other. Definitely come down the road. I like that. I like that. Are you personally playing Pokemon Go, and do you know how to find Ditto? Definitely I'm playing the game. Actually, I worked on the game as well. One of the things I helped develop was the ball throwing mechanic, the physics and everything like that. I did a lot of detail work, and I think I'm going to be good at it. Of course, I'm only level 24, so I might be a low level compared to some players. Both of us playing in terms of Ditto, we've got some ideas. That's all I can say. So Ditto isn't in the game. There's not even an idea of what it's going to do in the game. There's just some ideas, so Ditto's still in development. And I think that's... Oh, wait. Oh, there's still more. There's still more! Oh my goodness, there's a second page. I thought it was over. Alright, with the NX looming next year, what can it mean for handheld Nintendo consoles? And will Pokemon Sun and Moon be the last game for the 3DS? Ooh. Comes the main series to give Pokemon RPGs that we develop at Game Freak. We're always considering the timing of when we release them. There's been a certain point that they've been released to the hands of enough people to make sure the audience is big enough. This year with Pokemon Sun and Moon, we're obviously going to be starting to think about the next title, and depending on what the timing is, we'll determine which platform we release it on. I guess that means, like, they don't even know if there's going to be a new Pokemon game next year or 2 years from now then. Because, I feel if it's next year, it still might be a little too soon for the NX, but if it's 2 years from now, then it will be good for the NX. A fan-created game called Pokemon Uranium Oh! Ooh! Oh, no! I don't even want to go any further than that! Because that was the whole uranium thing that people spent years, like, what was that, like 5 years, even longer in development to make uranium, and then it got, like, struck down by Nintendo, and then you're pulling that up to Junichi Masuda? What? Did you get a chance to look at it, and were you impressed by it? Did I finish up on the last question? 3DS, I guess the install base on 3DS is pretty big, and they might, even though it feels like 3DS is nearing the end of its life cycle, especially because of the NX, looks like there might be an extra game for Pokemon before going to the NX, unless we're getting like a year and a half, 2 years until the next Pokemon game. Probably because I'm active on Twitter, a lot of people send me information and stuff like that. I've definitely seen the name. I actually haven't looked at the project though. People who created that though, if they have the skill and ability and stamina to create something like that, they should definitely get a job as a developer somewhere. Wow, that's I don't even know what to say, because that means the game got struck down without Junichi Masuda even seeing that, which is probably for the best, you know? You can't be a developer of a game and then let, like, an illegal third-party thing go through, because technically it is copyright infringement. Using the name actually, not even technically, it is copyright infringement. It is illegal for Pokemon Uranium. I know there was a huge fan backlash, but kind of the law is the law, and it looks bad on you as a developer if you know it exists and you applaud the actions too much. And I think it's kind of sad they don't even say, hey, they should work at Game Freak over this. Just get a job as a developer. So, wow, that's a brutal question. What are your thoughts on the state of the stereoscopic 3D? None of the 3DS Pokemon games have been full stereoscopic 3D. Definitely it's a cool feature for the 3DS, but we think we really want to focus on making these really rich graphics and visual expressions, and you have to make certain sacrifices. Being an RPG that you have played for dozens of hours doesn't make sense for the 3D. Alright. Current state of Mega... Oh my goodness, this interview is insane! This interview is insane! Current state of Mega Evolutions. With Pokemon Sun and Moon, we wanted to focus on a new addition to the battles, and that's why I put in Z-moves. Basic concept that each Pokemon in the game will be able to use one of these Z-moves per battle to unleash a really powerful move. Felt it really increases the range of Pokemon that can be viable. Hey! I like it that they're thinking about viability. And it really allows people to use a lot of different Pokemon. We really wanted to have people kind of get used to this new idea. This new strategic element. So over the course of the main scenario of the main game, Mega Evolutions don't appear. Once you finish the story, you unlock... Oh, cool. So it's after the story, you run to the main game about learning Z-moves. You unlock more strategic depth by combining Z-move with Mega Evolution Pokemon. Criticism of Mega Green Alpha Sapphire is that the internet meme gambled had too much water. Pokemon Sun and Moon have too much water. Oh, man, Game Informer! Ruthless! Each game really tries to uniquely define the region and strengths of characters. So with Hoenn, we put a lot of water because we wanted to put some focus on diving around and using Z. So that was a lot of water in the game. With Pokemon Sun and Moon, I wonder if he's actually seen the meme for too much water. I think he took that one a little too literally. As I mentioned earlier in Pokemon Sun and Moon, one of the core ideas is that you're going to cross all these different islands completing these challenges. You go around conquering each of the different islands with new excitement and features. So it's not really water. Yeah, you'll see that there's quite a bit less water to travel across in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Battles in game look like they take place in a true environment for the first time. It looks like you're looking into your opposing trainer, and then that happens. Like, I know I'm starting to, like, skim over this. I kind of want to get through this. Like, there's still quite a bit of interview left, and the video is already going on for a really long time. So, we were always experimenting with a lot of things internally at Game Freak, and before this project began, trying to figure out the best way to figure out how players feel in battling, and that they spot when they have a counter. I think it's the way that it appears in Pokemon Sun and Moon as a result of those experiments. Okay, so they just want to make it more immersive. Oh, this is a good question. Have you ever forgotten the name of a Pokemon? We definitely forgot a lot of Pokemon names quite a bit. One of the reasons that while developing the game, we call the Pokemon by code names. So it'd be years where those kinds of take hold. We often don't remember the final names of Pokemon. We definitely remember their code names. That's pretty funny. Because yeah, 3 years of a development, or even longer for a Pokemon game. So it's like you call it the code name for that many years, and then it takes a couple years to break that. Kind of like how for the entire month of January, you're still signing things for the previous year. What are some of the strangest code names? Oh... Can't really say too much because they're development code names. That's sad. Back in the early days, we got a bit more creative with development names, so there's a lot more playing. Like, Crabballer's code name was just Crab1, so it wasn't anything special. Can't really say too much because they were development names. Oh, that's unfortunate. I wanted to see some silly things like Crab2, Crab3. Do you remember Pikachu's code name? The original game, we were just a small group. We didn't have a lot of advertising, so we didn't care about having development names. So Pikachu didn't even have a code name. What dictates if a Pokemon has 3-stage evolutions? Were they all meant to have 3 stages at some point? Ooh, that's fancy. So we always look at the Pokemon as living creatures, especially when we get through inspiration of existing animals. Let's say a caterpillar evolves into a butterfly. This kind of stuff makes sense, but really depends on the Pokemon. When we're creating it, if it makes sense that it would have evolved forms, and if there's a good idea for it, we'll just go with that, and it's a really case-by-case thing. That's a pretty solid idea, because, yeah, like, we have Bug, and then we have Cocoon, and then we have Butterfly. Done! And then, like, I guess that also spawned for the other ones. But at the same time, you see, like, 2-stage evolutions. I would say, like, Gligar into Gliscor, or some like 2-stage evolution Pokemon that look like they would have a 3-stage line, or even introducing a baby Pokemon to kind of make that fit in. I'm seeing a lot more Pokemon based on inanimate objects like Klefki in the Sandcastle and the Lay from Pokemon Sun and Moon. Are you running out of animals? I don't really feel we're running out of material, especially with this series as it has progressed. We're trying to find a lot of fine balance between creatures that may look like they're typical animals, or Pokemon based off inanimate objects. I don't feel like we're running out of material ideas anytime soon, but I think it's a result of trying to find that balance. Yeah, and since we didn't get our dolphin Pokemon, I guess there's still more to talk about. Or, you know, Marlin, like a straight-up Marlin Pokemon be sick. I did a video on, like, top 10 creatures that should be Pokemon, and there's still many more ideas. So, yeah, I don't think Game Freak is running out. So, Pokemon can only say their own name. Pikachu, for example, speaks its own name. Do they say their own name, and that's what humans decide to call them, or do humans start calling them their names, and then Pokemon recognize it and start saying it? That's good. And Junichi doesn't even know. I don't even know, honestly. That's a separation of the main series from the animated series. Final thoughts. Pokemon Sun and Moon, we really tried to put together a lot of new, cool gameplay elements so it facilitates communication between players or just new ways for people to have fun. One of the items is a Pokefinder feature, which is a photo-taking thing similar to Pokemon Snap. Yes! Official confirmation, it is Pokemon Snap 2. I think a lot of fans will really enjoy seeing that come back to Pokemon. Yes. And I think recently there was also that interview talking about how they wanted to bring Pokemon Snap back into the franchise. So that's pretty cool that they officially did it. In terms of the battle audience, we put a battle royale, which shows up 4 people to battle locally. I think there's a lot of really cool things, and people are going to find it very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I think that's it. I don't even need to keep this conversation going. Like, that was big. I gave my thoughts. No Alolan Pokemon. Megas, Z moves, some really crazy things that happen. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.